We have a government that is ready to partner with the big, I'll call them, I will not even call them the actors because they are directly working with them. We have some people in this country that they feel that because their children they are now part of the government. They can now team with the government to terrorize the less privileged, the urban poor. I don't think it's something that should continue. It has been happening. It has not stopped happening. But with the effort of everybody, because even when we go to court, we get justice. What we are saying now is that it is the duty of you and I that forced eviction must come to an end.
I just want to quickly respond to what my brother from the Lagos State University asked, that what effort has been made to take on the state for not obeying court orders. We filed a contempt charge against the Lagos State government and Nigerian police. Justice M.A. from the Lagos State Judiciary granted a visit of the sheriffs to the site because the Lagos State and the police disobeyed the order. They went ahead and the building on a land that is still under litigation. So the Lagos State court gave the order that the sheriff of the state should go visit that very site. The day we were going, we went with STV, we went with Guardian newspaper, The Sun, and all the media houses. When we got to the site, the police that are guiding that place started beating up the sheriffs, and it was shown on the news. STV, people who watched STV, they are here. They saw the fight that day. It was a serious fight. We fought them. They seized our cameras and said, we cannot enter. We moved them to the room. The DPO went hiding that we should go and serve IG. So the situation is not filing, but what is the effect of that filing? Our case is right at the Supreme Court. We will follow this case to the last. I will make sure that all our houses that was pulled down, that will receive the adequate compensation.
For me, what more can Amnesty International do to help the communities, waterfront communities in Lagos State? Because the government seems to be adamant and not want to shift grounds on its decision.
Okay. So Amnesty International, the first thing we do, of course, is to document and then report basically in terms of what has happened and who has been affected. So first is information, and in order to give the government at least the basis to carry out their own investigation. The second thing is to work with the communities in terms of what are the next steps they can take in order to remedy what has happened to them. As a human rights organization, we work with other partners, lawyers, interlocutors, people who are responsible, who can take the next step in terms of ensuring if they choose to go the legal route in order to secure their rights via that route. That has been explored, and as you heard today, there were court judgments in favor of the families asking for a stay so that it would give an opportunity for the government to actually evaluate the situation. Because we understand that these are practices that are involving non-state actors. But because the government is the main obligator, the main person that is responsible for maintaining law and order and also for enforcing human rights, they have a responsibility to ensure that people's rights are not violated when there are other interests involved. And that is why we call on them to ensure that that is protected. Going forward, today we also heard people talking in terms of lack of provisions within those communities. This is leaning towards humanitarian assistance. And based on the reports we've gotten today, is to actually call on the humanitarian agencies as well as organizations who provide this livelihood support to actually begin to look at waterfront communities and those that have been evicted so that they can also address their needs. So for us, it's facilitating these connections and these networks for the communities.
I'm reading the report and I'm picking a phrase which says that forced evictions are totally prohibited under international law and never justified. If Amnesty International knows that evictions are prohibited, why is the international community not sanctioning Nigeria, or Lagos State as the case may be, on these matters?
You know, the way international mechanisms work is that they expect that the country tries to deal with the issues by themselves. And it's when those internal mechanisms fail that the international justice community will step in. In this case, victims have gone to court, and the High Court has given a judgment in their favor, before that before the local systems can be seen to be exhausted, there's still the Court of Appeal and there's the Supreme Court. But if there is the ECOWAS Court, which doesn't require you to have gone through all these mechanisms. So the option of the ECOWAS Court is actually still open to victims. But generally, other international mechanisms need you to have exhausted your local remedies.
The report also did say that Amnesty International shared its findings with the Lagos State authorities, but has not received any response. If Amnesty International keeps getting no response from Lagos State government, what next is it looking forward to do?
That's why we went ahead to launch the report. We wrote to them when we made our preliminary findings, basically saying, these are the things that we found, these are the questions we have for you, do you have comments on what we found? And they didn't respond, so we could no longer wait for them, and we went ahead to launch our report. And after launching the report, our next steps are advocacy and lobbying. We will continue to reach out to them because the changes we want to be seen made have to be made by them. But we, as an organization, will continue to put the pressure that we can put, and that's why we call on stakeholders like the media and other well-meaning Nigerians to join us in putting that pressure. So from us, you will definitely see more pressure coming to the government.
The Lagos State government said the reasons why it's evacuating persons from those areas because of environmental concerns and matters of security. Do you think that there's any sense in this?
We can never value human life below these things. In as much as the government has a responsibility to ensure security and to ensure protection of the environment, the question is, are there other ways in which it can achieve this security, protection and protection of the environment without violating the human rights of Otodo-Gbame and Ilubirin evictees? My answer to that question, and Amnesty International's answer to that question, is yes. There are several other options that the government should have explored, and there is no demonstration that they explored these options in the first place.
What are some of the recommendations you would want the state governments to take to improve the lives of these evictions?
First thing we want to see them do is to stop evictions. What this means is they should put an official moratorium. We expect the government to say, we are going to, for now, stop evictions because we are seeing that evictions are ruining lives. Because we don't have the proper safeguards in place to prevent them from becoming forced evictions, then we need to stop so that we don't keep violating people's rights. And then when they've stopped, they need to then put in those mechanisms in place so that subsequent evictions are such that people are given adequate notice, people are compensated, people are consulted with, and people are relocated when they cannot afford to relocate themselves. Afterwards, the communities that we have spoken today about, some of them are missing. 17 of them are missing. The government needs to account for these people, needs to launch an investigation into what happened to them. Some of them are dead. The government needs to account for their killings. What happened to them and how did they die? Some were shot, some drowned when they were running from gunfire. So there needs to be an accountability mechanism to ensure justice for the victims, the missing and the dead. And many of them have lost their homes. In fact, all of them are homeless, and they've lost most of their livelihoods, their properties, their belongings. Their children are not able to go to school. So the government needs to provide remedy to all of these problems, because this is a problem that the government failed to prevent, and the government also by itself created.
Since after the evictions, how would you say that life has been for those people?
It's been terrible. We've seen children who have not been able to return to school. We've seen adult men and women who have been jobless because they've been uprooted from where they end their living from. We've seen people who are outrightly helpless. Some are feeding, eating, clothing from the help of others. It's been very, very pathetic.
Is the government, from your knowledge, from your interactions with these people, are you aware of any provisions by the government to cater for these people after the eviction?
Not at all. As I said, I work closely. I am a community paralegal who renders services to people like those in Otodo-Gbame, grassroots legal services. To my knowledge, the government has not done anything as a follow-up, not even with a court ruling that the government should resettle these people. The eviction was against a court ruling that the government should hold on with the eviction, and the case was referred to the multi-judge court of Lagos State by Lagos State High Court judge. The government disobeyed this court ruling, went ahead with a forceful eviction, bloody forceful eviction, where people were killed. Our federation buried 2 of our members around the Badagry area. The government has done nothing, not even obeying that court ruling that these people be settled.
Today we are here for a report by Amnesty International on the evictions. Do you think that this report would somehow cause a change of thoughts and action for the Lagos State government?
Well, we are still very hopeful. The High Court that gave us, the Otodo-Gbame people, that ruling, that judgment is a High Court of Lagos State. So there are judicial officers who are still above board. We are hopeful. It's not as if we are not hopeful, but honestly, we are wishing, praying that the government should be a listening government, should be a people-oriented government, as against being seen as a very wicked government.
Right now, what would you say you want the government to do for the people?
You see, one, the Nigerian Federation has provided alternatives to forced eviction. You can upgrade these slum communities and they become tourist centers without pushing the people out of the environment. Remove the slum from the people. Don't take the people away from their homes in the name of removing slum. The truth of the matter is that if you drive people away from the slum, you are creating more slum. If we have people who are really thinking the right way, who are really committed to providing solutions to social problems, then they should listen to what we are suggesting, that in-situ community upgrade is the best alternative to forced eviction. And what does this mean? You upgrade this slum in phases where the people are still there. We have our federation, we have a social housing scheme that's affordable to our people. The people can own their home and pay the next 15, 20 years. We are not asking government to give us any money. What we're asking for from government is an enabling policy so that we can begin to carry out this in-situ upgrade of the slums.